Hello and welcome back. Hopefully my last video was helpful for you. I apologize that it's been a bit of a wait. I've had a lot going on. In this video, I'm going to go over a few things about patterns and then how to read one. All things that you will need to know as an absolute beginner. There are 4 main ways to get patterns. They're not the only ways to get patterns, but these are the best ways I feel like. The first and most common pattern to find is usually on the back of the label that's around the skein of yarn. When you buy a skein of yarn made by bigger companies, most of them will have a free, usually easy pattern as a sort of gift for buying their yarn. The pattern will be for that specific yarn weight, and as shown in my last video, what hook size generally works best, how to care for the yarn after the project is complete, and a few other tidbits on the yarn label. The second way to get a pattern is via the internet. There are many free pattern websites, or there are millions, maybe even billions of patterns you can purchase off different websites. To name a few, Ravelry, All Free Crochet, Etsy, Shopify, Temu, Patreon, Red Heart, and so many more. I'll link what I can in the description below. The third option is from books. Yes, those still exist. A book will generally have anywhere from 4 or 5 patterns to 25, sometimes even more. You can buy books at hobby stores, bookstores, and also online. The fourth way is magazines. There are a handful of magazines left: Crochet World, Crochet, and some craft ones that have patterns in them. Every magazine I know of offers a subscription option, but you can also find them in stores that sell magazines. There are probably other ways to obtain patterns, but those are the 4 most popular. When picking a pattern, here are some things to keep in mind. Be sure it says easy or beginner. Unless you are like me and think you can just jump into the most difficult pattern out there as a beginner and frustrate yourself till you sigh and decide you should follow the unspoken rules of crochet and start small, then work your way to the harder stuff. Yes, I did that. I was much younger and first learning to crochet, I decided I wanted to make a sweater, but it wasn't a simple sweater. It was a hairpin-lace sweater. Needless to say, it never got past the first row. The second tip is color change is not necessarily the hardest, but if you haven't gotten your tension down or muscle memory built in your hands yet, color change can be hard. So I recommend, if you're an absolute beginner, like you are still working on your chaining, you should stick with a single color pattern. Another good tip to keep in mind is to make sure the pattern only has the stitches you know or want to know. It can be boring, but the best way to build muscle memory and work on tension is to repeat it over and over again. The easiest patterns for beginners is one that has few rows of instruction and then is just repeated after. It gives you a chance to repeat the stitches over and over again so that you can build the muscle memory I keep talking about and work on your tension, both of which are extremely important to get down in order to be better and faster at crocheting. The last tip I have while searching for a pattern is to choose smaller projects. Start with a coaster, move up to a scarf, and then baby blankets. This will help you from overdoing it and hurting your wrists, and you will get that dopamine kick when you finish the cutest project you've ever made. Trust the process. When looking at a pattern, you'll see a lot of blah, blah, blah. Take it one section at a time. Here's the initial list of what a simple pattern structure could look like: title, materials or tools, abbreviations, special instructions, special stitches, the pattern itself, and sometimes finishing instructions. Now, you should be picking a pattern that only has a title, materials, and then the pattern for your first project. But I want to go over with you what each section is so when you get to that point, you'll still know what you're looking at. Unfortunately, patterns can be like a fingerprint. Each creator does it slightly different than others, and some patterns may have more sections, but may have less sections as well. But these are the main ones. In all my next slides, I have included an example on the right, and if you would like to keep that example to look at in more detail, pause the video and take a snapshot, because I'm going to go ahead and go through these pretty quickly. So diving in, the first thing you'll see is the title. This generally tells you what it is and sometimes how difficult it will be, as well as the creator's name and or where to find the pattern again. Next, you'll find the materials and or tool list. These are what you will need in order to work the pattern. It will tell you what weight of yarn, most of the time the color or colors, the hook size, and even the finishing tools like a pair of scissors, a measuring tape, and a tapestry needle. You can watch my previous video that talks about the tools at the end. In the example, the gauge is included in the description of the tools you will need. We will dive into that though later. Probably next you'll see a list of abbreviations and their full word counterpart. This is not always included, especially if the pattern only calls for one stitch. In this section, you'll see things like SC-single crochet or DC-double crochet and so on. We'll get into those in more detail later as well in this video. Special instructions are included when the pattern creator thinks the crocheter needs a bit more of an explanation for certain parts, or that is also where you will find finishing instructions and special stitches instructions for, say, a scarf with tassels or a origami. Yeah, I know I don't say that right. Amorigami critters that need eyes or sewing. You should not see this in your first pattern that you pick for your first go. Same with the special stitches. This section is for stitches that are not your generic, usually well-known stitches like single crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, etc. This section will explain how to do the stitches beyond those that you probably know, like a shell stitch, a puff stitch, or a front post double crochet. Sometimes the author of the pattern will add a different version of the shell stitch, but still call it a shell stitch, and so that instruction will be in this area. Again, you should not see this in your very first pattern you choose. If you're looking at this section in a pattern when you are a little more well-versed though, it's very helpful information. Finishing instructions is where you will find what to do after you completed the pattern. It can be as simple as fasten off and weave in the ends, or it may be complicated and tell you to add a zipper. It won't always have all the instructions though. For example, if it says add the zipper, the author of the pattern is expecting that you already know how to do this and therefore does not include detailed instructions for that. You can find tutorials on YouTube though that help you figure that part out. So don't get discouraged if you are wanting to up your crochet wizardry and see that. Just know that you are going to learn more than just crochet in that particular pattern. Sometimes you'll find a gauge section that is separate from your special stitches and special instructions, though the gauge information is sometimes somewhere mixed in with either the other two sections I mentioned just before this or in the pattern itself. You'll need a gauge if you are wanting to make a certain very specific size project, like a sweater, cardigan, socks, etc. I'm not going to go super into this, but these are some examples of what it may look like, since you won't always be a beginner. I'm planning on doing a video on gauges soon. There are other instructions you might see later on in your crochet adventures. Remember, each pattern writer may have a different idea of the structure of the pattern needed in order for it to be understandable. So the finishing section may not be at the top. It may be at the bottom after the pattern. The next sections I'm not going to go super into because these are pretty much the same as the special stitches, finishing instructions, and special instructions. For whatever reason, the writer of the pattern may label them differently, but put them in a different spot. If you want to look at these examples a little longer, go ahead and pause the video. I might be going through these kind of fast. When you see them though, this could be what they are called. Starting with finishing measurements. This is usually for anything, though some pattern writers don't include it for all things like scarves or baby blankets. Others do. So here are some examples of what that might look like. Images are a great reference if done correctly. They can really help you see what your project should be looking like. They can also help you see where to place the stitch or put the hook through. Like videos, which are last in this section, they can be wonderful, especially if you are a more visual learner. Next up, the stitch guide, stitch definitions. This is the same as abbreviations usually, but it may be labeled differently and in a different spot. So here are some examples. Then we have the notes, which also basically are the same as the special stitches, special instructions, and finishing instructions. Pretty much whatever the writer of the pattern thinks it should be called is what the title of the section will be. The assembly section is used if there is things like sewing required or tassels to add, etc. And again, this could just be under special instructions or something else. Glossary or index is what you'll find in a book and sometimes even a magazine. In those instances, each pattern may not have all these sections included and will be in the back of the book or magazine for you to reference. Also found in books and magazines are stitch how-tos, usually including images and instruction on how to do each basic stitch, as well as some more complicated stitches. Reference videos are extremely useful, but may not be included for all patterns. I bought some flower patterns and the author was kind enough to do videos for the pattern, and it really helped because I am a visual learner. Alright, we made it to the pattern. This is where the meat and potatoes are. Here is the list of the most basic stitches both for written and symbol patterns. We'll look at symbol patterns after we look at the written stitches. Don't get mixed up, but I included UK stitch definitions. With the internet being as vast as it is, you may find a UK or Australian pattern that you like, of which their verbiage is different. So, if your project is looking wonky, check to see if it's a UK pattern or American US pattern. To read a pattern, you have to learn the language of crochet. I'm going to use the US term, but if you need to cross-reference, just go back to the previous slide. Here are most of the terms you are going to see and read in a pattern. I suggest pausing and screenshotting this page if you want it for future reference. So we have slip knot, chain stitch, magic ring, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, treble or triple crochet, yarn over, beginning, decrease, increase, back loop only, front loop only, repeat, space, stitch, end, fasten, bind or cast off, main color, row, round, turn, right side, or wrong side. Now, I didn't include all the different color verbiage, but just know that a lot of authors use different abbreviations and terms for their second or tertiary third colors. So just make sure you take note when you're reading the instructions. Now, I want to show you what the different stitches will look like once you do an entire row, along with their stitch name and abbreviation. I will just play these slides slowly so that you can pause and screenshot them. First, we have the slip knot and yarn over and chain stitch, a magic ring that's been tightened, the beginning, usually referring to the beginning of a row or chain. This is a slip stitch across with the last row being a chain 5, single crochet with the previous row being a chain 5, and a row of half double crochet with the last row being chain 5, a row of double crochet with the previous row being a chain 5, and a row of treble or triple crochet with the last row being a chain 5. This is a skipped stitch. And in this one we have a decrease where the top two images are showing an invisible decrease and the bottom image being just a regular decrease, which is basically the same as a skip stitch. This next slide is an increase, the image showing 2 stitches in one of the previous row stitches. A back loop only stitch, the hook goes under the back of the V instead of under the entire V. The second image showing what a row of them looks like. This one is a front loop only stitch. The hook will go under only the front loop of the V instead of under the entire V. The second image showing what a row of them will look like. Here are some other abbreviations you might see. I'm currently writing a pattern so that I can do a video that you can follow along with me, and I will explain all of these in more detail as well as show you how to do them. I also have a string of videos coming out that do show you how to do each stitch. Mostly just the basic stitches like single crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, triple crochet, etc. Last, we're going to take a glimpse at a symbol pattern. I believe these have been around for a while, but only started gaining more popularity in recent years, and now you can find tons of patterns that are written in symbols. Symbol patterns will not have any instructions, so just like a written pattern, you will basically be learning another language. Well, easier than learning a whole nother language, but you get the idea. These patterns are for people who want an entire world to be able to read their patterns, because it won't matter what language you speak or read. You can see the symbols and just know what stitch the pattern is calling for, like a universal language. You can find entire dictionaries of symbols for the stitches online. Comment below if you would like me to do a video of a symbol pattern alongside the video of working a written pattern. Some upcoming videos I'm working on include how to do each of the stitches I talked about today, a crochet with me video where I show you the pattern and work it through with you, and some other informational videos. Comment below and let me know what other things you would like to learn about. This concludes the video, but there are so many adventures I want to share with you, so if you liked my teaching style and this video helped you, like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you will get notified when I upload more like this. Thank you for your support and the best of luck with all of your upcoming projects, and have the best time with your newfound hobby. See you in the next video. Bye!